All right, it's district breakdown, and we have moved on to 5A Division I, a district that I had fun covering more than I thought I would last year because, there's a lot of non-DFW teams in there, in my opinion. Of course, our guy Diggs, he doesn't, he's got a wider compass than I have, and he's here to talk about it as well. Let's talk a little bit about that district because that came down to Midlothian and Lake Belton late in the year, and Midlothian pulled it off to win it. But we also had the surprise Red Oak win in the first round of the playoffs over Ryan, and a lot of cool things happened in that district last year. What do you think about this year, Diggs?
Really did. And when you really kind of break it down, so many competitive games. If you remember on the podcast, every week we were talking about 1 point games. You had Lake Belton and Midlothian, a 1 point game, Red Oak and Midlothian, just a bunch of games under one score. And really, I think this year we're not going to see any change in the playoff teams. I think we might see a little bit of shifting in the order of those playoff teams. But I think that this district begins and ends with Midlothian, and they're going to have some big question marks to really get into to answer. When you have to return when you lose your quarterback, I think that really speaks. You got to show that resilience. But Bryant Wesco, I mean, he is a special player award, and he's coming back at wide receiver. I think you might see them use him at running back a little bit. And speaking of running backs, you got Michael Garber coming back at running back. But quarterback Ward, a French speaking guy, Drew Wendell. Got the senior coach's son out there. We love coaches' sons. We love when they get to be quarterback. And I always say when you have a quarterback, a coach's son at quarterback, it's like playing 12 against 11 because they love. Usually, if you are a son of a coach and you're a quarterback, you really love it. And you're studying film and you're doing all kinds of film room stuff. But Midlothian, I think, especially because they're going to have the best offensive line in the district year after year. Strength and conditioning program at Midlothian is legendary. They are going to be, in my opinion, that they are the reigning and defending champions, and I think they're the team to beat this year.
And you talked about Wesco. Are we looking at, they play a specific style of offense? Are we looking at we may have to change this thing up to use his talents? I know you just said he'll be playing at running back, but this district has, and you'll get into it in a second, two of the best wide receivers in the state, maybe even in the nation. If you think about Micah Hudson at Lake Belton, are they going to have to switch it up where we don't see the misdirection so much so that it's going to Wesco, or what do you think is going to happen offensively?
I don't think they have to do it. Why break something that, or why try to break something that doesn't need to be fixed, Ward? I don't know if that makes sense to you. It makes sense in my head. But when you put him out there, he might only catch the ball 20 times next year, but he might have 1,400 yards in those 20 receptions. So I mean, he is a big threat player. You always have to cover him. You can't sneak in, and all it takes is Midlothian to find that one or two big plays a game, and he is there, and he will make those plays for Midlothian, and he is a great threat. Again, I think we'll also see him in the running game, maybe in the special teams returns. I think he's going to be a special player. But you talked about those other teams, and the team I'm really excited about, it's not Lake Belton, although Lake Belton has a lot to be excited about. Let's talk about Killeen Shoemaker. This is my kind of a dark horse. I think they're going to be a team that nobody is really focusing on, but I think they should maybe even be state ranked. They got their quarterback coming back. And again, this was a team that played all of their games competitively last year, other than Aledo. We could always give Aledo a mulligan, but I mean, their two losses in district were both, by heartbreaking 1- and 2-point losses. They beat Lake Belton last year. Malachi Jerome, their quarterback, had over 2,000 yards passing, 450 yards rushing, 20 touchdowns last year. He was just a sophomore. Shoemaker's going to have him for 2 more years. They've got a really good running back coming back in Gerard Hicks. Shoemaker is going to be a team. I think if I were not so in love with Midlothian, I might say Shoemaker is the team to beat in this district. But Midlothian, to be the man, you got to beat the man. I'm going to integrate Ric Flair theory into this. I think, until somebody shows me that they can beat Midlothian, you got to put Midlothian number one. But Shoemaker, and I know you're just rolling your eyes over there talking about Killeen schools again. Don't like those Killeen schools. I think Shoemaker and Midlothian is going to be at Midlothian. Ward, get a camera crew out there. 3rd week of the season, make it happen, Ward.
3rd week of the season, that probably means 1st week of district play, right?
Yeah, first week of play.
All right, well, we'll see what we can do there, Diggsy. I don't like the way you try to direct me to where to go, but hey, Well, hey, we conversate, we figure things out together, and
You're
that's
the
what.
producer, but I'm the suggester. You
All right.
produce, I suggest. I
Well,
make suggestions, you make decisions.
all right. We may do that, but what I'm going to suggest to you right now is tell me about the other two possible playoff spots. I would like to hear a little bit more about Red Oak as well, because Red Oak, it seems they go through coach change a lot of recent years, and it seems to work out every once in a while. So talk to me about that team. Are they going to fight for a playoff spot? And going to
I
give me
think
some
they'll
of that
absolutely. I think they'll absolutely fight for a playoff spot. In fact, I think I'll have them in the playoffs. But they're a school that gets rated. When you see so much success in that area from DeSoto and Duncanville and Lancaster and South Oak Cliff, it's very easy to see some of those top players transfer out. And rumor has it that Taz Williams, their stud wide receiver, has enrolled in DeSoto, at least as of the taping of this podcast. So that's going to be a big loss for them. But Braden Robinson is a very good wide receiver. They'll have him coming back. They'll have a pretty good offensive line, but they got to replace a quarterback, a couple of defensive questions. But really, there's such a big drop off from 4 to 5, in my opinion. I think Red Oak is probably a pretty solid number 4 in this district. I still like Lake Belton as a number 3 in this district. Micah Hudson, talked about him last year, and he deserved all the hype, and he delivered. Then you got Caden Bradshaw. They're gonna have to replace the quarterback over at Lake Belton, and I think he was a real big, important part of that machine that made things go. But Ty Legg, the really dual I was going to say dual credit player. I got school on the mind, Ward, still, but he plays both sides of the ball. He's a threat on either side, all district on either side. He's a fantastic player they got coming back. And how about the name Peanut Brazel? Really like that kid at safety. Watch some film on him. The name draws you in, but the footage speaks for itself. He's a special player as well, and I think Lake Belton is going to be a good number 3. And I think all 4 of these teams are teams that are going to be ranked in our top 15. Keep an eye on social media outlets for our release of the rankings. But I think you're going to have 4 really good teams. So, like we talked about last year, Ward, you match them up with 3-5A, and you get some really good first rounders. You do not want to be the 4th seed in this district, because what does that mean in the first round, Ward?
That means Alito, and that probably means a 20 to 30 point loss.
It does. And Colleen Shoemaker was that 4th place seed last year. They lost 37-0. Really got Alito going off on their pathway to success. And you don't want to be 4th seed, but top 3 seeds, I think you have a chance to win a playoff game if you can avoid that 4th seed. Rest of the district, I'm not really feeling great. I think you got Colleen Ellison and Waco are all kind of the same team. You got Ellison's got a really good defense. They got Samaj Howard, the really talented defensive end, coming back. Colleen has a really good linebacker, Galayam Taylor, coming back. Waco is a team I'm kind of keeping an eye on. They're very young last year. They're going to be returning some key players coming back. Unfortunately, our DFW teams, including the Queen of Hood County, Ashley, I think her Granbury Pirates are probably going to be at the lower part of the district. And Cleburne had a really special freshman playing last year, Malachi Cunningham. He may be a player that we talked about in a couple of years, maybe even a bobblehead candidate if we can get Cleburne out of this district into a more DFW area district. But I think Cleburne and Granbury are both going to struggle on the Tarrant County and Hood County side of this district.
I think probably out of all the 5A districts we've talked about, maybe a Division I and Division II, this is one that you're pretty firm on the 4 that will make the playoffs. Usually when we talk, you're like, well, if a turnover happens here or there, the 5th place team may be 4, but I think you think between 4 and 5 is quite a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're going to have Midlothian 1, Colleen Shoemaker 2, Lake Belton 3, Red Oak 4. You could put Colleen, Ellison, and Waco in a blender, put them 5, 6, and 7. I think it's Colleen, Ellison, and Waco in that order. I think Granbury's a little bit better than Cleburne. I have Granbury 8 and Cleburne 9 in this district.
Gotcha. All right, we're going to move on to 5A Division 1 next week.
So Region 2.
Region 2. There you go. Moving on.